Hello there. You're about to dive into a captivating piece of history. Don't miss out on this incredible journey through time. The Le Dynasty. Emperor Le Dai Hanh, Le Hoan, was born in 941. His father was Le Mich, and his mother was Dang Thi. Historical records differ on his hometown, mentioning Truong Chau Ninh Bin, or I Chau Thang Hoa. When he was young, an official in the village saw his potential and adopted and raised him as his own son. As an adult, Le Hoan served Nam Viet Vuong Dinh Lien. He had a liberal nature and great ambition. The warlord, Dinh Bo Lin, praised his courage and resourcefulness and entrusted him with command of 1,000 soldiers. In 968, after Dinh Bo Lin had quelled the 12 warlords, he became Emperor Dinh Tien Hoang and named the country Dai Co Viet. Le Hoan was appointed by the king as the general of 10 directions. In 979, Dinh Tien Hoang and Nam Viet Vuong Dinh Lien were assassinated. The court officials enthroned the 6-year-old Prince Dinh Toan as Emperor Dinh Phê Day. Le Hoan became the regent, taking charge of state affairs, and was titled Vice King. The great officials at the time, Dinh Dien, Nguyen Bach, and Pham Hop, saw that Le Hoan was a powerful regent and suspected he would do something unfavorable to the young king. They brought their armies to attack him, but they were all killed by Le Hoan. At that time in the north, the Song dynasty had unified China after the fragmented period of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms. In May 980, the Song envoy returned from Hoa Lu and reported the chaotic situation in Dai Co Viet to the Song court. In August, the commander of Ung Chau Haon Han Bao submitted a letter to the Song emperor reporting the civil strife in Dai Co Viet. He argued that this was the opportune moment to launch an invasion and requested to return to the capital to explain in more detail. The great Song emperor did not summon Hao Nan Bao to the capital to keep the plan to invade Dai Co Viet a secret. Instead, the military commissioner of Guangnan, West Hu Trang, was summoned to report on the situation. Hu Trang reported that in Jiao Chao, the last king of the Dinh family, Dinh Toan, was a child who had been harmed by rebels. The country was in constant turmoil, and the people did not know who their true ruler was. He suggested that they should immediately send troops on the pretext of coming to their aid. Upon hearing this, Emperor Taizong of Song ordered immediate preparations for war and issued an edict to invade Dai Co Viet. The Song court established the Jiaoqi Expeditionary Force, the command center for the invasion. General Haon Han Bao was appointed commander-in-chief of this command, leading both naval and land forces, with the intention of turning Dai Co Viet into a Song prefecture after the invasion to be governed by Haon Han Bao. The Song divided their army into 2 divisions. The naval force commanded by Haon Han Bao would advance from Qinzhou along the sea route into the mouth of the Bac Dang River and then move up the Luc Dao River. The land force commanded by Ton Toan Hung would march from Ung Chau to To Mao and then advance deep into our country's interior. The 2 divisions would rendezvous at Hoa Bo and then join forces to attack Dai La and Hoa Lu. The total Song army was about 30,000 to 40,000 men. Upon receiving news of the impending Song invasion, Empress Dowager Duong Vananga ordered Le Hoan to select brave warriors for the campaign and appointed Pham Ku Luong as the Grand General. While the court was planning the expedition, Pham Ku Luong and the other generals clad in armor went straight into the royal palace and said to everyone, "It is a clear law to reward those who perform a service and punish those who disobey orders. Now, the king is just a child. Even if we risk our lives to stop the foreign invaders and achieve some merit who will know about it, it would be better to first enthrone the general of 10 directions as king and then send out the army." The soldiers all cheered, "Long live!" The Empress Dowager, seeing that everyone was willing to submit, had a royal robe brought out and draped it over Le Hoan. From then on, he ascended the throne as emperor, known as Emperor Le Dai Hanh. He changed the era name to Tien Phuc and demoted Dinh Tuan to Prince Vei. Emperor Le Dai Hanh personally led the main army from Hoa Lu Citadel, traveling by water up the Dai and Nui rivers to the Red River, and from there, advancing to the northeastern part of the country. Dai Co Viet urgently built defensive lines. The most notable of these was the Bin Lo Fortress. In addition, Emperor Le Dai Hanh had sharp stakes planted in the Bac Dang River and several other rivers to counter the Song navy. On the other hand, he sent envoys with tribute to the Song king and presented a forged letter from Dinh Tuan requesting a royal title to delay the war and gain more time to consolidate his forces. In January 981, the naval force commanded by Hoan Han Bao advanced into the mouth of the Bac Dang River. Immediately, the naval and land forces of Dai Co Viet charged out to block them fiercely. The enemy's fleet became confused and struggled to resist, but the Song army outnumbered them. 200 of our warships were captured, and more than 1,000 soldiers were killed. Although Hoan Han Bao's navy suffered some losses, they managed to pass through the stake field and occupy the Bac Dang River and the surrounding villages. They established the Jiao Qi Expeditionary Force Command there to coordinate the naval and land forces to advance deeper into our country's interior. Although they suffered losses in the first battle, the Dai Co Viet army remained determined to fight. On the land route from Ung Chau, the army commanded by Ton Toan Hung was continuously blocked by our main army and local militias, making it difficult for them to reach Hoa Bo near the Bac Dang River. At Hoa Bo, the Song Land Army encountered and clashed with the Dai Co Viet army. Chinese historical records state that the Song army defeated more than 10,000 Jiao Qi soldiers. However, the Song Land Army could not advance further. The Song naval and land forces could not contact each other. By March 981, after more than 2 months of occupying Bac Dang and Hoa Bo, both Song divisions were at a standstill. The Song army was continuously harassed by our main army and local militias, which depleted their forces and lowered the morale of their soldiers. After waiting for a long time for reinforcements from Lu Trung and Tran Kam, Hoan Han Bao led his entire naval force from the Bac Dang River to the Luc Dao River, intending to break through the Bin Lo Fortress and then invade Hoa Lu. The Dai Co Viet reconnaissance forces, upon learning of the Song army's movement, quickly moved a large portion of their forces to hold the Luc Dao River under the personal command of Emperor Le Dai Hanh. Here, the Dai Co Viet army and people fought bravely. Hoan Han Bao's naval force suffered a severe blow. The Song army was heavily defeated and had to turn their ships back to the Bac Dang River. Hoan Han Bao's intention to achieve glory by capturing Hoa Lu before reinforcements arrived was thwarted. It was not until April 11, 981, that the Song naval reinforcements commanded by Lu Trung arrived at the Bac Dang River and joined forces with Hoan Han Bao's army. Afterward, the land reinforcements commanded by Tran Kam too also arrived. However, the Jiao Qi Expeditionary Force still could not carry out its plan to rendezvous and jointly capture Hoa Lu. Meanwhile, Emperor Le Dai Hanh, on the one hand, wrote a forged letter of surrender, which led Hoan Han Bao and Ton Toan Hung to believe it and become less vigilant. On the other hand, he secretly strengthened his forces, preparing for a decisive battle to deliver a final blow. The king chose a treacherous stretch of the river and arranged his forces in an ambush waiting. On April 28, 981, the second great battle of Bac Dang in Vietnamese history took place. First Emperor Le Dai Hanh sent a small force to challenge Hoan Han Bao's army. Seeing this, the Song army charged in to fight. As the battle was raging, our forces feigned defeat and retreated. The Song army, seeing their advantage, pursued them. When Hoan Han Bao's warships fell into the ambush, the king launched a fierce attack. The Dai Viet soldiers from all ambush sites and from all the small paths poured into the Bac Dang River, fiercely besieging the Song army. The Song army was heavily defeated. Hao Nanbao was killed in the chaos. Lu Trung quickly led the remnants of his army to escape to the sea. Hearing that Hao Nanbao had died on the Bac Dang River, Ton Toan Hung and Tran Kam, to panicked and led their army to flee. The Dai Viet army pursued them, and more than half of the Song army was annihilated. The Song generals, Quach Quan Bien and Trio Phung Hoan, were captured alive on the battlefield. The first resistance war against the Song during the early Le Dynasty achieved a complete victory. The victory of 981 delivered a decisive blow that completely crushed the spirit and will of the Song dynasty to invade. The Great Song accepted a truce. In 986, they officially recognized Emperor Le Dai Hanh as the ruler of Dai Viet. The two sides established friendly relations. Dai Viet paid tribute to the Great Song every 2 years. In 990, the Song king sent Song Chao with an edict to confer a title on Le Dai Hanh. Knowing that the Song were arrogant and haughty, the king changed the way he received them. He ordered Din Chin to bring 9 warships and 300 soldiers to Lianchao to welcome the envoy to Dai Viet. In October 990, the Song envoy arrived at the Hoa Lu capital in a grand and unusual sight. In the river, warships and flags were everywhere. On the hillsides, soldiers in military attire stood with shining swords and spears. In the fields, thousands of buffaloes ran kicking up thick clouds of dust. The Song envoy could not help but see the might and wealth of the Vietnamese nation. According to the Song dynasty's rituals, when a king of a vassal state received an edict from the celestial court, he had to kneel. But Emperor Le, using the excuse that he had fallen from his horse and hurt his leg, refused to kneel. Song Chao had no choice but to accept. After a joyful feast, Emperor Le Dai Hanh had a large python several meters long brought to the guest house, and told the Song envoy that, if he could eat the meat, the king and his officials would prepare a feast for him. The Song envoy was terrified and refused. On another occasion, the king had 2 ferocious tigers brought for the envoy to admire. The envoy again broke out in a cold sweat. In 993, the Song dynasty conferred on the king the title of Prince of Jiaoqi, and in 997, the title of Prince of Nam Bin. Later, in 995, the Dai Viet army launched an attack on Song territory, specifically at Tran Nu Hong in Qinzhou Prefecture. The Song sent a letter of reprimand. The king's reply was quite arrogant. The attack on Tran Nu Hong was carried out by pirates from outside the border. Did not the emperor know that it was not the army of Jiao Chao? If Jiao Chao were to rebel, it would first attack Phien Ngung and then Man Viet. It would not just stop at Tran Nu Hong. While the Vietnamese were still under Chinese rule to the south, the Champa people had already established an independent and self-governing nation in 192, living in the small, narrow valleys of south-central Vietnam. In 982, Emperor Le Dai Hanh sent Ngo Tu Can and Tu Muk as envoys to Champa, but they were captured by the Champa king. The king was enraged and ordered warships to be prepared and weapons to be sharpened. He personally led the army to attack Champa. The Champa army was heavily defeated. The Champa king was killed in battle. The Le dynasty's army captured countless soldiers along with hundreds of palace girls and a Buddhist monk from India. They took gold, silver, and countless treasures, leveled the citadel, and destroyed the ancestral temples. After a year, they returned to the capital. The Song Shi, History of Song, records that the Vietnamese king sent an envoy to present 93 captured Champa soldiers to the Song dynasty to show the strength of Dai Viet. According to the Song Shi, in 990, Emperor Le Dai Hanh again led his army to attack the geographical prefecture of Champa capturing many soldiers and civilians and confiscating much wealth. In 995 and 997, the Champa army crossed the border to attack Dai Viet, and the king had to send troops to repel them. During his reign, Emperor Le Dai Hanh had many projects built and promoted agriculture and handicrafts to restore the country. He was the first king to hold the Tich Dien ceremony to encourage agricultural production in Vietnam's feudal system. Le Dai Hanh was also the first king to organize the digging of rivers. The Le River, a project he initiated, was the first inland waterway in Vietnam. During the Dinh Dynasty, King Dinh Bo Linh divided our country into 10 provinces. Emperor Le Dai Hanh established the early Le Dynasty, changing the 10 provinces to districts, prefectures, and provinces. The king established official positions such as Grand Preceptor, Grand Tutor, General Manager, and Military Governor. He appointed his sons to govern the provinces. In addition to his military victories against the Song and Champa Emperor, Le Dai Hanh also had to deal with internal rebellions and quelled rebellions in various places. As a result, the king's reputation was very famous. In 1001, the Crown Prince Le Long Viet was officially named Crown Prince by Emperor Le Dai Hanh. The other princes, such as Long Dinh, were given the title King Khai Minh, and Long Tich was given the title King Dong Than. Before this, Long Dinh had asked to be made Crown Prince, and the king was inclined to do so. However, the court officials argued that it was not proper to appoint a younger son instead of the eldest, so the king stopped. In March 1005, Le Dai Hanh died, having reigned for 24 years at the age of 65. The princes fought for the throne for 8 months. The main conflict was between Crown Prince Long Viet and the second Prince Long Tich, the 2 eldest of the remaining brothers. In October of that year, Long Tich was defeated and fled to Thach Ha Prefecture Ha Tin, where he was killed by a local. Long Viet ascended the throne as emperor, known as King Le Trung Tong. However, the country was still not at peace. 3 days after Trung Tong became king, his younger brother Le Long Dinh had a man sneak into the palace and assassinate him to seize the throne. He was 22 years old. Long Dinh was a violent person who enjoyed killing and doing evil things. On one occasion, he placed sugarcane on a monk's head and peeled it, sometimes accidentally hitting the monk's head with his knife, making it bleed. He would laugh when he saw this. When he held court, he would mockingly imitate anyone who presented a memorial. Because of these actions, Long Dinh was hated by officials and the people. Historical records also state that Long Dinh, due to his hedonistic lifestyle, became ill and could not sit, so he had to lie down to hold court, earning him the name Lengo Trieu, the Le, who held court while lying down. In 1009, Lengo Trieu died. His son was still a child. The court officials took the opportunity to enthrone Li Kong Wan, beginning the Lai dynasty. The early Le Dynasty ruled for 3 generations, a total of 29 years.